Hello again, welcome to the Ref Show. We wanted to talk about the football really, rather than the referees, and generally speaking, we're achieving that in Euro 16. So far, so good. What we didn't want to talk about was hooliganism. I'm afraid we're going to have to kick off the show with that, because it really did all kick off before and after the England-Russia game, the sickening scenes in Marseille, and now Keith Hackett and David Hirst, the threat from UEFA, if there's any repeat, God forbid, to expel either or both of Russia and England. What do you make of all that, first of all, Keith? And the threat, how serious is it?
I think that they should take the threat seriously. UEFA don't mess about. They're quite happy to close stadiums if need be. We see that in Champions League where, you know, spectators misbehave in the stadium. I mean, UEFA really have to deal with what's inside the stadium. What's outside is not their brief. Therefore, I think if we take how the Russian spectators attack the English in the stadium, then that is a big scene. And I've no doubts that UEFA will be looking extremely seriously about that. They have obviously their match delegate at the game and other people as well. They have filmed evidence. And one suspects that we haven't heard the end of that. I think that there will be some repercussions from that.
I have to point out that despite the English reputation, which has been well earned, unfortunately, over the years for hooliganism, misbehaviour, etc., that the Russians were the instigators on this occasion. Were the police heavy-handed as well? I don't know. What do you think?
I think there's a little bit of everything involved there. You know, hey, you don't condone anything. I'm not saying it's the Russians' fault, the police's fault, or the English's fault. It's a mix. It's a mixed bag of things that's happening. And there's people there just going to football games, or not even to the game, just in the cities, just to cause trouble. And, you know, I want to see a great tournament. But I'll tell you now, if UEFA actually said, well, no, England out the tournament, Russia out the tournament, all well and good for me, because I think it's an indictment in the game to be sat there on a morning of a big game, watching idiots running riot. You know, and if it takes that to kick a team out of the competition,
even if it was England,
even if it was England, because we're part of it, we're part of it. I'm not making sides here. I'm saying we've got to stamp it out. And if UEFA actually stand there and say, look, this is the way we're going to do it, hey, we have to abide by that. Strikes me, it's not an argument we can put up, because it's happening.
Strikes me, UEFA have grown some teeth, as it were, over recent years. There was a time when they soft-pedalled on issues. They don't make empty threats now, do they, Keith?
No, I think that they're an organisation that have to look after 54 nations. They have to be even-handed. We do have a reputation, sadly. That will always be with us. I don't think we'll ever lose it. I think the one thing that we and UEFA are aware of is our expertise in dealing with crowd issues. And I think it shows how well, prior to Premier League games, how well the games are policed with spotters, with people travelling with the away team spectators. There are things that are done naturally, which are all part now of pre-planning. Hour and 15 minutes before the game, the match ref commander comes in with a ground controller. They talk to the referee, even though it's done before. It's still the same processes. They change occasionally. They know where the spectators are. They know what the allowances are. But of course, in a Premier League game, the maximum away team, if you like, supporters allowed in the ground is less than 10%. So it's 10% of maximum. So it's smaller numbers that we're dealing with. Here, there are massive numbers. And you know, games can go on. Big games can go on. We saw that when Sheffield Wednesday went to Wembley. What a fantastic occasion, despite the result. But I mean, well placed, well managed, and a process and a procedure that's obviously pretty standard. And I can't understand why, you know, we don't see that as a reflection in Europe. But we don't. The reaction, and I'm not blaming the police here, it's a clear understanding. I've seen it with my own eyes as a FIFA referee. In other countries, there is an immediate response, and that response is much heavier than what we see here. You know, the tear gas comes out pretty quickly.
You'd think that would be a deterrent, though, wouldn't you? And clearly, to some people, it's not. It's all part of the.
Exactly, yeah. But if we're sending the police force over there to look after our crowds, and the other countries are not doing that, you know, I'm not saying that Russia instigated it or whatever, but you know, it has boiled over. You know, if we're doing our bit, is everybody else doing their bit? Because like Keith said, we've got it under control in England.
Yeah.
You know, in Britain, we've got it under control, and it went crazy at a spell. Now we've got it under control. We're understanding what we're doing. We're sending the police over that spot the troublemakers, and we get them segregated, sorted out, banned from the stadiums, banned from travelling. If other countries are not doing that, you're going to get the flare-up, because unfortunately, one team are going to defend against the other. And if they come rushing at you, you're going to stand your corner at times.
Not much option.
Exactly.
I don't think this, Alan, is all alcohol driven.
No.
You know, these guys are not falling over full of beer or wine or whatever.
Mind you could say an 8 or was it 9 o'clock their time kick-off in Marseille, powder keg city as it can be. For England, Russia is bad planning, you could say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Just we'll go on to the next games, because the eyes of the world are going to be on the next games, more so what happens around the game than actually on the pitch, very sadly. But taking David's point about all well and good, if we have to be banned as a football nation from this tournament, kicked out, all well and good. Is that not a sellout to the hooligans, the fractional minority? And is it not letting down the 99.9% of decent fans who just want a peaceable, enjoyable tournament?
Yes, it is. And I mean, sadly, we talk about minorities influencing these outcomes, which we don't want to see. But it is that minority that's out of control. I don't think many of them go to a football match to actually watch football, or even got tickets to go to the game. I think their part of their joy is to let's have a fight. And you know, sadly, I don't know what the mentality is of these people, but certainly you have to think, if you're taking a couple of young grandchildren or kids to a game, is that the environment that we all want? The image of the game is damaged here quite substantially, because what happens is the media coverage goes around the world, you know, and we see the very worst situations, which might be in a small pocket within a given area. But nonetheless, those are the things that we don't want to see and damage the image of the game.
I'll guarantee there's people sat here this week who've got flights booked, hotels booked and tickets for the games, thinking of cancelling because of the scenes that they're seeing, because they're taking young kids. You know, they're going as a family to go and enjoy a great tournament that we all expect to be a great tournament, and we're getting the scars of yesteryear coming back and haunting us with it.
It's very, very sad. But let's just hope that as we move on to midweek and Wednesday and Thursday, we don't get any repetition of this. Although actually, England and Russia are not very far apart. Russia v Slovakia is in Lille. And you know from your experience of European travels, Lens, where England play, tiny place actually, isn't it? England play Wales. I mean, it's very close.
I've been to both. I mean, both, if you like, they're almost like villages, not being disrespectful. But they are, if you like, really nice places to visit. And what worries me is that, you know, you've got loads of imported potential here. You've not only got football fans that want to fight from either side. It's a 30-minute train journey, so they can get on a train if they want to fight. But I think the other scenario that could come into play here are all the people that are, if you like, on the area and fringes of France wanting to come to England, and suddenly they're getting frustrated and suddenly think, let's join in. So you're getting all the migrants that could actually, sadly, inflame this situation.
If you're scheduling this tournament, why on earth would you put England v Wales in a tiny village, as you called it village, small town, in a tiny stadium in Lens?
Well, I mean, the scheduling, I mean, they weren't expecting the situation, I don't think, I mean, of what we've seen. That's the thing. I mean, as you mentioned, Russia can be at the England game, then travel to their game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how crazy it is after what we've just seen.
I think that is a difference. I think that in England, okay, again, the police, the security, the planning and the detail and the what-ifs are asked. I think in a competition like UEFA, where you're parachuting in a competition, right, you're relying on the home nation, France, to actually plan and prepare. Now, let's take into account the bad situations that have occurred in France over recent months and the impact that that's had on the country. This is the last thing they want.
Absolutely, stretching resources, and it's a nonsense, isn't it, that when we're all on alert for terrorism and the possibility of multiple murders taking place, that we've got some idiots fighting and preoccupying the security services in France. That's Ref Show Part 1. Thankfully, in Ref Show Part 2, we'll get on with the football side of the tournament, and hopefully from here on in, that will dominate our agenda and everybody's agenda. But meantime, just get your heads around this refereeing teaser. We'll see you after the break. During a stormy match, a player collects the ball from the crowd to take a throw-in. As he does so, a fan hands him a banner which contains a message calling you an idiot. The player smirks, walks over to you slowly, deliberately displaying the banner for all to see, and hands it over. What now?